It's time to step back into the twisted world of American Horror Story with its spin-off series, American Horror Stories. Let's dive into the first 2 episodes and find out just what happened. What's going on, you lovely people? Lisa here, and it is time to dive back into Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk's twisted American Horror Story world. They have a brand new spin-off called American Horror Stories, where each episode is going to be its own self-contained thing, but these first 2 episodes do go together. It's a 2-parter. Now, these episodes are titled Rubber Woman, which, yes, if you guessed it just from that title, it connects to American Horror Story's first season, Murder House. Plus, many of this world's fan-favorite actors are back playing different characters throughout this first season. Now, I'm going to make a separate video about all the Easter eggs that are in these 2 episodes. I'll mention a few here, but you can check out that video in the description below or right up here. Alright, so let's dive into this world of Rubber Woman. So depending on how old you are, I first wanted to kind of mention this because I think it's funny. You may remember a Disney Channel show called Ant Farm and a character named Olive. Or maybe you remember the character of Creepy Connie from Disney Channel's Jessie. That character might be a better predecessor for the character Scarlet we meet in this story.
I'm tired of being the one who always gets burned. Does she know about the button?
Yep, Sierra McCormick, the actress from those Disney Channel shows, is now all grown up playing Scarlet in these 2 episodes titled Rubber Woman Part 1 and 2. It is quite the departure from what she did back then, but she has done more stuff kind of in this American Horror Story vein as of late. So we meet Scarlet, who is moving with her 2 dads to a new house that seems like her friend can't believe that she's moving to, and well, that's because the house turns out to be the famed murder house from season 1 of American Horror Stories, and this gives us an intro shot that's kind of similar to the opening shot of season 1 of Murder House. So Scarlett's dads, Troy and Michael, are played by Gavin Creel and Matt Bomer. They're house flippers who see this murder house as their next big money ticket. They personally don't believe in ghosts, but they want to flip this house to capitalize on all of that, make a new brand, take advantage of the ghost stories that surround the house. Scarlet seems a little iffy about the house, but as she's unpacking in her room, a red ball rolls in out of nowhere. She picks the ball up, puts it in her box, doesn't think anything of it, until another red ball rolls in. She then starts to wander around the house, and she's just kind of naturally led to a closet, and when she opens it, inside is the Rubber Man suit, and she runs immediately back to her room with this suit and mask, puts it on, and it fits her like a glove, kind of like Catwoman. But once she puts the mask on, she looks into the mirror and then all of a sudden gets a scare. Yeah, her reflection all of a sudden changed to Rubber Man's reflection, and then she started to freak out, so she immediately takes the suit off and puts it in the trash. We then move to Scarlett's school life, and we find out that she's kind of an outsider at school. She really only has one friend named Shanti, and she also has a crush on a popular girl named Maya. However, Maya's friends are the ones that also make fun of Scarlett all the time. Also, just a quick shout out here to Luke Mullen, who plays one of the students that has the discussion about the brain with Scarlett. He's also from Disney Channel's Andy Mack. These Disney kids are really now graduating to all the juicy stuff, huh? Anyway, after a discussion in class about whether it's fear or shame that stops people from doing what they want, popular girl Maya actually stops by Scarlett at her locker and flirts with her. Now, Shanti thinks Maya's just messing with Scarlett, but Scarlett has too big of a crush on Maya to actually think anything of it. She thinks it's real, and then we get our first glimpse into just how dark Scarlett is. She goes home and gets off to visions of Maya, but when she climaxes, it's at the moment that she envisions herself strangling Maya. Yeah, kinda kinky and scary, I guess. We also see Rubber Man come down from the ceiling later that night while Scarlett sleeps. Then the next day, as Scarlett is stalking Maya's Instagram, she happens to get a text from Maya basically saying that she likes Scarlett too and sending all these thirsty, cat emojis, if you know. And she invites Maya over for a sleepover. Then we kind of see the darkness continue to peek through as a dad stops Maya before she heads to school to scold her for her internet searching habits. It seems like a year ago she got caught with some pretty disturbing, naughty videos on her computer. But now they've seen that Scarlett has been searching and watching even more disturbing videos that include even more physical pain and humiliation, so they're kind of asking Scarlett if this is what she fantasizes about, and if she's the masochist or the sadist, and well, she's just kind of embarrassed and doesn't want to answer any of these questions, but the dads pretty much think she needs help, and they're gonna put her in therapy, as well as put a child lock on the internet. Scarlett's in her room, and she finds that the rubber suit has somehow made it back into her closet. She kind of thinks this is a joke, and so she puts it on, and we kind of see her eyes turn black, and she has a knife. Now, her dads are in their room getting ready for bed when she kind of busts in with this knife, and they're freaked out. But then she starts laughing and takes the mask off because she wanted to prank them, because she thought the dads had put the mask and the suit back in her room as a prank, getting it out of the trash. But they're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. They want her to throw this suit out. It gets tense, and Scarlett ends up actually slicing Troy's arm with the knife. Of course, that means she's definitely grounded, so the sleepover is a no-go. The family then has a therapy session where we meet Dr. Grant, and we get another look into Scarlett's past trauma. She was actually kidnapped when she was 3 and was missing for 10 days. She was kidnapped by a woman whose ex-husband had murdered her own child, and she had kind of gone mad. Now, Scarlett says she remembers nothing from that, but the dads are maybe worried that something happened to her in those 10 days that has maybe caused her to have these fantasies or fetishes. Dr. Grant then kind of brings up the past of the house, as well as that could be, feeding into what Scarlett is feeling, but the dads continue to hold firm that they don't believe that there's any ghosts in this house. Now, when the session is over, Dr. Grant actually goes to go use the restroom and is then murdered by the rubber man. Yeah, it's not actually Scarlett in the rubber suit. You can tell that it is a man in this rubber suit. The dads then discover that the rubber suit has been left on the floor. It is covered in blood, a pile of blood. They are actually kind of dumb. They attribute it to Scarlett being on her period and just leaving the suit lying around, which might actually be even more disgusting or not, but the fact that they're clueless and they don't want to, maybe see where that pile of blood goes, or maybe look in the basement, because we really don't know what happened to the therapist's body. But yeah, they forget about it. They just decide to burn the suit instead. Or, they could have asked Scarlett about it, but that doesn't happen either. The dads have then had a long night, so they decide to watch The Crown and pass out with the help of some Xanax, which makes it easy for Scarlett to sneak out to go to Maya's sleepover. And just as expected, it's a little awkward with Scarlett and Maya and her friends, but Maya seems to be, flirting with Scarlett, sticking up for her, thinking in the same way, and they decide to go into Maya's bedroom so that Scarlett can borrow some pajamas, and then things get kind of awkward as Scarlett begins to open up about what kind of porn she likes and all of this. And yeah, it looks like Scarlett should have trusted her one true friend, Shanti, because it turns out to be true. Maya and her friends are horrible and were just trying to humiliate Scarlett. They were live streaming this whole conversation, the whole thing, and thank goodness Shanti texted Scarlett to let her know. Well, now Scarlett is devastated and humiliated, returns home, and later calls Maya and threatens to kill herself and leave a note explaining how it was Maya and her friend's fault and that they could actually end up in jail. There's cases where this has happened. And, well, you see Maya kind of immediately change her tune and try to apologize, but it's just not good enough. Scarlett says that the girls need to come over to the house in the next 30 minutes or else she's gonna do it to herself. Well, of course, these girls don't want to go to jail, but they also don't want to go inside this murder house because of, the stories behind it. But they think that having 4 of them against the one Scarlett, is good odds, but it's not when you enter this murder house. They go in and then they get a text saying to go into the basement, and well, that's kind of where they meet their doom, and Scarlett in a rubber suit kills them all and then puts their bodies in this crawl space that we've seen briefly before, and she patches it up with new brick and mortar. So she works on this brick wall all night, and the next morning she tells her dads that she just wanted to help out, this is an apology, and they kind of think nothing of it. But then who pops up behind her after the dads leave the room? Dr. Grant. Yes, the ghost of Dr. Grant is now stuck in this house, and Scarlett has this live-in therapist, and Dr. Grant says that Scarlett really should talk about all of this because she just killed 4 girls. But she also says that Scarlett's going to have to make an appointment because Dr. Grant shares this space now with another therapist, which is just a reference to Dr. Harmon from season 1 of American Horror Story Murder House. Scarlett, though, says that she's never felt better and then gets a fun surprise when she opens the door later that day. Yeah, it seems like Scarlet and Rubberman are kindred spirits. Scarlet just has no problem getting vengeance or slicing and dicing people. But that's what happens in episode 1. What happens to her in episode 2? Well, let's find out. So, a little bit of time has passed, and we open this episode with a girl chasing a nurse through the house with a knife. The nurse then gets led into the basement where she gets stabbed by Rubber Person. And then the mask comes off, and we see that is Scarlet, who is just giggling and laughing with this other girl. And yeah, this seems to be their fun, chasing around people and murdering them, or chasing around other ghosts and murdering them. We end up learning that this girl is named Ruby, so it's kind of like we gotta wonder where Scarlet went and found a kindred spirit that loves to also kill people? I mean, where do you find a friend like that? I don't think you find those kind of girls on Bumble, or maybe you do. Who knows? Dating apps are kind of scary. Anyway, we see that this girl is named Ruby, and she starts to tell Scarlet her tragic backstory. You see, her parents died in a car crash when she was 6, and then she was sent to live with an uncle who ended up abusing her. But then when she was 16, she found out that this man was not even her uncle. He drove her to where her parents were because they were still alive, and they had just sold her to this man when they were done with her. Yeah, that is pretty messed up, and it seems like that kind of trauma makes sense of why she would bond with Scarlet. But Ruby then continues saying that she wanted to kill everything because she was mad at everyone, but then she decided she wanted to kill herself because that's who she hated the most, and she wanted to do it in the murder house, thinking that she'd get on the news when someone found her, and it would make everybody who hurt her suffer. So yeah, you can maybe guess where this is going. Ruby is actually a ghost that is stuck in the murder house because she reveals that she killed herself in that house, and then the realtor came over and just covered it up by burying Ruby's body in the backyard and burning the note. So no one ever found her, and it seems like, sadly, no one ever cared. But now Ruby and Scarlet have found each other. I'm gonna guess because Ruby's been watching what Scarlet's been doing in that house, and it turned her on. They're now in love, and Ruby wants Scarlet to stay with her forever, aka having Scarlet kill herself, but Scarlet says she's not quite ready to make that choice, and you kind of have to wonder why Ruby doesn't just kill Scarlet then, you know? She's got plenty of opportunities to do that, and then Scarlet would be stuck with her. But then again, if you do that, Scarlet might just be pissed at, Ruby for the rest of eternity, and then that would just be uncomfortable. But eventually, you'd probably make up. Who knows? We then see 2 detectives arrive at this murder house to question Michael and Troy about missing girls in town, aka Maya and her friends. Now, they want to get a warrant, or they have one, to check Scarlet's phone records because they're pretty much leaning towards Scarlet being the suspect because, she was the last one to really talk to them. The dads, though, don't believe Scarlet could hurt anyone. Well, now having killed Maya and her friends, you'd think that they'd come after Scarlet, these ghosts, and well, they actually do, which is why Scarlet now sleeps with a knife. When Dr. Grant shows up, wanting to schedule a session with Scarlet because, she's got a lot of issues, Dr. Grant's stabbed from behind by, Maya, and her friends have vowed to torment Scarlet forever so that she can't sleep. They thought about killing her, but that they'd only get to do once, and it wouldn't be as fun as torturing somebody with the anticipation of when are they actually going to kill her. Now, as the girls are threatening Scarlet, Ruby then shows up, and she's basically the protector of Scarlet. She threatens these girls, and it seems like Ruby's maybe one of the most feared ghosts in this house. It's someone you don't want to piss off, because it turns out that she just loves to kind of peel the faces off the other ghosts over and over. Well, Scarlet and her dads do later have a therapy session with Dr. Grant, and the dads still don't know that she's dead. Michael ends up saying that Dr. Grant was just there at the house when he got back from the hardware store, so he just figured they'd have a session. I guess he just didn't find it too weird. Maybe he thought one of the other people, Scarlet or Troy had set up a session, so he didn't really think anything of it. But unfortunately, no, it's just Dr. Grant that is stuck in that house, and she pops up when she thinks people need their therapy. Anyway, in this therapy session, we find out that Michael and Troy's relationship is not as happy in this episode as it was in episode 1. They're actually going broke, trying to fix this house. No contractors want to work on it because it's the murder house, and, Michael's actually starting to begin to believe in ghosts as he actually saw Piggy Man in the shower once. Troy, though, still standing firm that he doesn't believe in ghosts and everybody's just making it up or going crazy, and he's also just turning into a real jerk. That continues to show when he hires a new contractor named Adam and starts showing him around, even kind of offering some happy endings instead of money for payment for work. And things get worse when Michael walks in and catches the two of them flirting. But Adam's kind of cheap and the only one who wants to work on this house. And Adam thinks it's going to be even good for his business because he's having some trouble. But, you know, if he survives working in this murder house, it could help him. Michael's kind of pissed, doesn't want this to happen, but, you know, they have no other choice, and he just wants to get this house redone as fast as possible so they can get the hell out of there. But, you know, they better watch their backs because Ruby is seen creeping around, even while Troy and Adam continue to cheat together. Then Adam and another contractor named Martin take a look at the brick wall that Scarlett had patched up because there's this nasty ass stench coming from behind this wall because, hello, dead bodies. However, they just think it's an animal that died inside the wall. They then begin to open it up and, well, to their surprise, they find the body of 4 girls covered in maggots, and all 4 of them, Adam, Michael, Troy, and Martin, seem pretty shocked, and Martin, of all people, is like, oh no. But then out of nowhere, we get this like crazy twist as Adam takes his sledgehammer and kills Martin, the other worker. And it's just like, this house attracts crazy ass people. It turns out that Adam's business is failing because, well, he's done a ton of shady stuff, stolen from people, I guess done some senseless violence. He's also in the middle of a divorce. Yeah, he needs this job to turn his life around. So he's pretty much going to blackmail Michael and Troy into letting him do this project. Otherwise, he's not going to keep quiet. He also wants, you know, those special happy endings and other things thrown in the mix. And, well, you know, Michael and Troy, they don't have any other options, really, or do they? This guy's kind of scary, but Michael tries to throw Adam out, but when they open the front door, Rubberman's standing there waiting, and yes, it's actually Rubberman. You can tell it's a man in the suit, but yeah, Rubberman doesn't want Adam to leave, and he kills Adam, causing Michael and Troy to start running around the house, and they run around and start to see the ghosts of the 4 girls as well as Martin. Now Troy is finally a believer in the ghosts in this house. We then see Troy try to run out of the house, but, you know, he keeps just ending up back in the same room, and you're kind of like, wait a second, why can't he leave the house? Well, surprise, it's because they're ghosts. Ruby, when she was sneaking around, ended up killing them. They just happen to not remember it because Dr. Grant says that they repressed the trauma. Well, this just means that when Scarlett returns home, she has quite the surprise as she sees that the crawl space is open with 2 new bodies in it. We have Adam and Martin, and then she goes to her dad's room and she finds her dad's dead as well. Also, it's kind of funny when Ghost Adam and Martin are telling her that she has to go to the hardware store to get the supplies so they can finish the house. They kind of tell her it's not safe in this house for her. It's like, no shit, Sherlock. But Scarlett insists that it's safe, that Ruby will protect her, and that she actually ended up only killing the dads to make Scarlett stay. Yeah, those dads do not think that is a sweet gesture, and Ruby's not going to win their approval anytime soon. Then we end up at Halloween, and Scarlett's heading to Griffith Park for an event, and Ruby wants to come with her, and she actually can because it's Halloween, the one night that the dead can walk around the earth, aka she can leave the murder house. So Scarlett puts on her rubber suit as her costume, and they head to what looks like a freak show at the park. Get it? Freak show? Anyway, Maya and her friends also see this as the perfect opportunity to kill Scarlett, and so they follow them. Scarlett does tell Ruby that she loves her, but still isn't ready to give up on the world yet, and makes Ruby promise to not kill her and take that choice away from her. She also promises that she will not abandon Ruby. But things get awkward when Scarlett and Ruby run into Shanti. You remember Shanti? Yeah, the one friend that Scarlett had that she's now distanced herself from, thinking that she's protecting her. Scarlett tries to introduce Ruby to Shanti, and Shanti is not having it, so she kind of goes off and Scarlett follows her. And then we learn that Shanti's pretty smart. Even though she lied to the cops thinking that Scarlett could do nothing, she's done her research and knows that Scarlett's basically a psychopath and probably killed Maya and her friends. She just tells Scarlett to leave her alone, so Scarlett leaves, but then we see Maya and her friends show up, you know, kind of confusing the heck out of Shanti, and it seems like they want to hurt her. But then Ruby comes out of the shadows to prove to Scarlett and to Shanti that she is there for them and to protect them.
Why are you keeping her from her life? She doesn't go to school anymore. She doesn't talk to me anymore. If you really loved her, you'd set her free.
After that, we see Scarlet and Ruby meet up again and they get a little killing spree in, and then Maya and her friends interrupt their fun and they're ready to kill Scarlet. Because if you kill Scarlet outside of the house, she's gonna be separated from Ruby forever. So this freaks out Ruby and Scarlet runs off and hides in a stairwell. Meanwhile, one of the girls who was chasing her, Nicole, gets distracted by a guy, and we just see that Ruby finds Scarlet later asleep in the stairwell, and they all head back to the house. Yes, all of them. Kind of seems like some peace has been made between all of them. Maya and her friends have this proposal for Scarlet. They tell her that she can't come in the house again, and Scarlet actually agrees. And, well, Scarlet tells Ruby that she loves her, but living in the house is not what she wants at this period of time, and she also ends up apologizing to Maya and her friends for, well, killing them. They let Scarlet go back into the murder house just to get her stuff and to say goodbye to her dads without anyone trying to kill her. We also learn that the guy that stopped Nicole at the freak show thing is actually her brother, who was surprised to see her, and, well, she's explained everything by this time. And so he's gonna go home and tell his parents and the police that the girls' bodies are inside this murder house. And when he's like, who do I say did it? Ruby steps up and says, tell them it was Ruby McDaniel. And Nicole also makes sure to tell her brother that he should never set foot in this house. Scarlet then packs her bags and says bye to her dads and Ruby. Well, that's not the end of the story. We pick up 10 months later and we see her in a really cool old Mustang hanging out outside of some guy's house. She calls in to check in with Ruby and her dads, and, well, now it seems like they're all just one big happy family of ghosts. Like if you had a ghost sitcom, this is what it would be. They're just eating pancakes, hanging out, laughing with each other. Adam's actually finished the repairs on the house, but still no one wants anything to do with the house, and then we learn why Scarlet wanted to stay alive. The house that she's sitting outside of is Ruby's fake uncle's house, the guy who abused her, and, well, she says it's his last day on Earth as we see Ruby put on her rubber suit and kill the man. So now it seems like she's gonna be, what do you call it, like a vigilante or something? She's gonna go, hurt the people that wronged her friends, the people in the murder house maybe? Who knows? There could be a whole nother episode with just what the heck Ruby goes and does next. But she keeps her promise. She does not abandon Ruby or her family. We see that Ruby's actually, happy. She's good with the deal that every Halloween, Scarlet comes back to the murder house and visits them. You can actually see that Ruby's happy because instead of chasing these nurses around and killing them, she walks around now and gives them a high five. We also see just one last little shout out to Murder House Season 1 at the end of the episode as we see that Ruby comes running out wearing Tate's shirt from Season 1. So also how she got that shirt is another story for another time, I guess. But yeah, that's the end of Rubber Woman Part 1 and 2. It looks like in a weird way everyone kind of got their happy endings. I mean, those mean girls did get murdered, but they were happy to kind of stay looking young forever. The dads, they also worked on their relationship, finally got to fix up the house without having to worry about time or money, so I guess that's a plus. Scarlet, also on her little vengeance tour, she found love with Ruby. She's happy, Ruby's happy. A little weird, but I guess it's a satisfying ending. And, I mean, since nobody's interested in this murder house, I guess Scarlet's dads still own it. Maybe Scarlet is still going with the ruse that her dads are alive. I don't know, but, yeah, we have to wonder if this murder house will claim any more victims, especially since, it's pretty settled with Scarlet being there. Or will she lure people into this house? Who knows? But yeah, that's what went down in this first story from American Horror Stories. I don't know why they couldn't have changed the name. I get what they were doing, but also it's just super close to American Horror Story, and it gets confusing a little. But yeah, I'm curious to see what other stories they come up with, because these guys have twisted minds, man, and I don't know where they come up with half of these things, but they've managed to do it for many, many seasons, and now as well with the spin-off. But we gotta wait also and see if these other contained stories are tied to maybe other seasons. Maybe each episode goes with a season, or maybe some of them have nothing to do with the others. We'll have to wait and see. But for now, leave me all your thoughts, theories, and comments. What you thought about these Rubber Woman episodes. Do you think that, we could see Scarlet in her Rubber Woman suit sometime down the line? Maybe meet up with actual Rubber Man who is Tate? we don't know who's in that Rubber Man suit as of right now. But yeah, leave me all those theories and what you would like to see if these characters did come back. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Check out that Easter eggs video I was talking about right over here, because there's tons of Murder House Easter eggs in this 2 episodes. But as always, I'm Lisa. Thanks for listening to me ramble, and I'll see you next time.